people because they swim really well. You can't just jump into the water and help people and drown with them if you don't know what you're doing. You need to take care of yourself. It's extremely important. You're going to have too much deference for others. You're going to think too much about their point of view and how things are affecting them, and they are not going to do the same for you. In fact, they're going to sabotage you. They're going to your face, say thank you, and behind your back, get in your way of your success. And I'm only saying that to make you understand that you need to put yourself higher than you are right now. And it doesn't mean you have to be mean. It just means that other people are. Okay, what's up? Finally got a chance to post on here. I'm sort of going through some of my morning routine here. It's already almost 11. And so it's a little challenging because my day gets broken up all crazy because I get up. If I don't get up before a certain time, I sort of make breakfast for my partner, and that takes up some time. And then by the time she bounces, I start thinking about dinner and stuff and getting that going. So today we're making soup, and I gotta set that up, and that takes 30 minutes or whatever. So now I got the soup boiling or simmering, and I could talk a little bit about what I want to talk about. So essentially what I want to do right here is I decided I can give advice to myself, because this is a self-reflection project that I'm trying to embark on. And I'm thinking, okay, if I could talk to myself at 25 years old or 24, somewhere in there. That was a while ago now, maybe about a dozen years ago. What would I say? So I have essentially 12 pieces of advice for myself, career advice in particular, that I would give. So take control and responsibility for your own development. Lou, because I'm talking to Lou from a while ago. You really have to focus on, on building your own skills. Your employers are going to tell you that they're going to help you with that, and they're not going to. They're going to promise it up and down, and it's just not how it works. It's not in their interest to spend time and resources to show you how to be the best. You've got to really be responsible for it yourself. And if it's not happening, you got to make time for it. You can't get distracted by just trying to get through the day or focus on the grind. Don't do that. Give time to yourself. Focus on you and developing you, because at the end of the day, this is a really difficult business in media, and you need to really be constantly getting better. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard to move from one place to the next. Meaning job-wise and career-wise. You really gotta keep getting better, and that's on you. It's not on nobody else. And if you trust them to do that for you, it's not gonna happen, and you're gonna fail. So number 2, trust your instincts. This is gonna be a huge problem for you, Lou, because you have very good instincts, but you're not going to trust them all the way. It's going to be because there's a clash of character for you. On the one hand, you're good at figuring stuff out really quick and making really good guesses about what's going to happen next. And you're going to be right a lot of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time. But also, you're a little bit prudent too. You want to be like, well, I think this is going to happen. I'm not sure. Let me consider everything and test my hypothesis, if you will. And you have to be really careful, because there's a really fine line between being reckless and making decisions based on a little bit of evidence and thinking too much, overthinking things, and being paralyzed by all of the possibilities and options. There's a really fine line. There's research that shows that really successful CEOs understand where that line is. They don't just take all of the information and then come to a perfect decision. What good CEOs do is they get as much information as they can, as quickly as they can, and they make a decision, and they move forward, and that's it. They get some information, and then they make a decision and move forward, and you're not going to move forward fast enough, Lou. You got to really be quick about it, It's okay to be prudent. It's not okay to let yourself be paralyzed by that prudence. So you really have to work hard to move fast. Trust your instincts, trust yourself. It's not about not letting people tell you you're not right. It's about understanding that you're in control and you're the one that makes the decisions. So you need to do that. Don't just sit around. Make a decision. Okay, this is going to be very direct advice for you, Lou. Get out of a bad situation as soon as possible. In your career, there will be more than one situation where you're not in a good position. You're going to either have bad coworkers or a bad partner or a bad team, or you're going to have a bad assignment, and it's going to be legit bad. It's going to be something that you can't navigate around, and you need to find a way to get out of that as quickly as possible. You have to try really hard. People aren't going to listen to you when you're asking for help, because they don't want the problem too. So you got to figure out a way to get out of that as quickly as possible, and you got to be really serious about it. You can't just sit back and deal with it. That's not okay. It's your career. You're the only person responsible for it. Other people don't care about how it's affecting you, and they're going to willfully ignore the situation. People in power are going to. You can't let that happen. You got to get out of the situation as quickly as possible. If that means you have to take on more work to do something different that makes sense but gets you out of that situation, then that's what you do. But you cannot just sit and wallow in it. And this is the next piece of advice. So here's a really hard one for me to tell you, Lou, because it's going to be counter to what you define for yourself as a person, right? One of the things, the core of who you are, it's going to be counter to that. You need to stop having so much deference for other people. You need to recognize that you are as important as others. And I know this is going to be hard, right? You're a Boy Scout, former Boy Scout. You care about other people, Scout law. Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. You want to be all of those things. Unfortunately, you're going to do it to your own detriment, okay? You need to place yourself at least as high as you do others. You want to help everybody? Heal thyself. Lifeguards save people because they swim really well. You can't just jump into the water and help people and drown with them if you don't know what you're doing. You need to take care of yourself. It's extremely important. You're going to have too much deference for others. You're going to think too much about their point of view and how things are affecting them, and they are not going to do the same for you. In fact, they're going to sabotage you. They're going to your face, say thank you, and behind your back, get in your way of your success. And I'm only saying that to make you understand that you need to put yourself higher than you are right now. And it doesn't mean you have to be mean. It just means that other people are. And I need you to understand that. And they don't even do it on purpose, bro. They do it because they got their own issues, In fact, they think they're probably helping you by getting in your way. That's how messed up this whole stuff is with other people and their own motivations. So just recognize that, man. And you really have to focus on yourself and, give you what you deserve. Don't depend on other people to look out for you, because they're not going to. This will be a quick one. Right now, you don't have a college degree. If you get to where I am right now, you're going to have a master's degree. I'm telling you from this position, you don't need school, okay? You don't need it, all right? I'll tell you why. The reason why you don't need school is because you're already reading everything, bro. Like, literally, everything they're going to assign for you, you've already read. Maybe not everything, but a lot of the stuff. You're smart enough to figure it out on your own and know what you need to know. With that said, you do need skills, man. You need to develop some really specific hard skills that are transferable from one place to another. So you don't need school, but you do need skills. You need to be able to demonstrate them and get certified or something like that. So I've tried to give this a few different times already, and I keep talking too much. So I try to talk as little as possible here, okay? I know why you want to go to school. It feels like a safety net, and you want to do it because, your parents didn't come here just so that you can graduate from high school, You want to do more for them and for your friends and family, right? Totally understandable, and that's okay. So obviously Big Brother is watching, because in the middle of me talking about how college is useless, I lose my battery, right? So let's get back to it. So when you're looking at colleges, look at it like a trade school. Think about what kind of skills you're going to come away with that are actually going to help you. And don't just assume. Look at the outcomes of the school. What kind of jobs are graduates of that school actually getting, and at what rate? I don't want to talk too much stuff about the school that I went to, for undergrad, the downtown, easy to get into art school, but they're not super upfront about how difficult it is to build a career in the arts. And for like a creative career, you have to be like 10x better than the average person, In an average career or regular career, if you're mediocre like everybody else, that's awesome. They're like perfect. But for like a creative career in the arts, you have to be way better. And the reason is that the competition is insane. Everybody's trying to get in here, and people are ruthless. They'll do anything to have a chance to do anything in the arts. You have to be careful, because schools are not gonna do that for you. I think I heard somewhere that they give away more journalism degrees every year than there are available jobs in journalism. So the openings that are out there cannot be filled by every single graduate. Do you understand what I'm saying? And you got to be mindful of that, and understand what decision you're making. So I would suggest looking at the actual outcomes of people who graduate from the program that you're interested in, like actual graduates. It's really important to know what jobs are they getting for real. And if they can't answer that question, red flag. I would also say when you're looking for classes, you should also look at things that you can actually learn, like transferable stuff, learn whatever, editing or analytics or whatever, things that are actually job tasks. And at the end of the day, I think what I'm saying is just know the decision that you're making. That's all. I'm very happy with what I learned, and I'm happy with the programs that I was in, and I was successful. If you're going to go to school to study poetry, just know that you're going to school to study poetry, not to become a poet. There's a bit of a difference there, and just recognize that that's the choice you're making. And here's one thing in closing that's kind of a hot take, but I've been sharing it a lot, and it's something that I believe right now. If you're going to a top program, like top 5 school or top 5 program, totally worth it. School number 20 to 100, no difference. And I'm saying this as someone who went to a community college, went to a commuter Division I school here in Chicago, went to an expensive art school, and went to an elite graduate school. And I don't see a lot of difference between them, except for like maybe a little bit of like the rigor between one and the other. Some might be more lenient, some might be a little less rigorous, but otherwise the learning is not that different. Let me also say, by the way, graduate school, undergraduate, totally different, okay? So I went through graduate school at Northwestern, and I think it's probably easier than undergrad at Northwestern. Even though I loved my program and it was really hard, I think it's different. So one more thing, my graduate program, which was awesome, was also early. I was like the 3rd cohort, so the value of that degree is not going to pay dividends probably for 5 years or so when we have more alumni that are successful. So I was going to take a break here and come back later with the rest of it, but nope, I'm just going to go ahead and push through and finish this off, which is the mantra of even this bit of advice, which is stay active. And this is what I mean by that. What I mean by stay active is keep doing what you do, understand this is really hard to explain. It's about opportunity costs, and what that means, oh man, I'm getting really complicated here. So opportunity costs, the thing that you don't do, the cost of not doing the thing that you could be doing, right? If you're taking a job as this, it means you're not going to school for that. If you're going to school, you're not taking a job. The opportunity cost is the thing you didn't do. you want to mitigate that opportunity cost as much as you can. So try to make it so that you're not doing the thing. Maybe you're doing it less, or maybe you've changed how you do it, but try not to not do things. Stay active. The example for you, Lou, would be, you're going to be working at the radio station, you're going to be going to school, and you're going to get opportunities to keep working in film, and you're going to choose only one. You're going to think you can only do one, and that's not necessarily true. You're going to think that focusing on the radio thing is more important. Or you're going to have friends that are going to offer you jobs on movies that could launch your movie career, and you're going to pass those up for doing the radio thing. And it's hard to know this at the time. It's hard to know where you're focusing your energy, but that's why you just have to always be thinking about, like, what is the end, Begin with the end in mind, thinking about what is the goal here and what serves the goal. And if it's serving an institution, then maybe you should rethink it. How does it serve you? That's really what you got to be thinking about. How is what you're doing serving you and your goals? So this is really important advice that I got from someone else, which is, when you're building your reputation, focus on building reputation in your field and not in your house. And what does that mean? What that means is, if you focus too much on having a reputation in your workplace and with your colleagues and your bosses, you're going to miss an opportunity. You really should be working really hard to build a reputation in your field across the industry. So in your industry, that's where your reputation is really being built, and you have to think about it that way, And if you think about it that way, you're going to do a better job at managing your reputation. So don't get knocked off your square is actually more serious, Yes, don't get knocked off your square. Like, don't let an unimportant person sort of like let you change your character in the way that you are. That's part of what it is. But also, I think for me, it's like a mental health thing, Like, don't let the frustrations and whatever other things that are bothering you about a workplace affect your mental health, because it will, especially when it's prolonged. And I can tell you from where I'm at now, Lou, that it's going to happen, You literally are going to have issues now from back then, And to be more specific about what exactly I'm talking about is, so I've got this thing that happens, which are called night terrors. Essentially, they're panic attacks, and they happen in the middle of the night. You're sleeping, and suddenly, boom, you're waking up thinking that you're dying, And people who don't have panic attacks, it's hard for them to understand what it is, but it's like a problem, and it stems from workplace stress, workplace frustration, not dealing with things, and getting knocked way, way, way off my square, Like, I can't be my best self when I'm dealing with that, right? When I'm not getting enough sleep, when I'm having these panic attacks, when I have to like really focus on meditating and calming myself down. And I'm not a good meditator because I don't do it that often, but it gets in the way, you know what I'm saying? And you got to be able to recognize that early, deal with it, and the thing that's sort of creating that right away. Once you feel you're getting knocked off your square, get back on your square. It gets back to that whole trust yourself, trust your instincts thing. Take care of yourself. So like, I was telling a friend about like my night terrors, right? I was telling about all kinds of sleep issues because I also have sleep paralysis, and that's really scary and weird, but doesn't freak me out as much. And I'm explaining this to him. I'm telling him, I get this thing called night terrors that I've been reading up on, and it's just crazy, blah blah blah. And he's like, oh yeah, I know what you mean. Like my daughters get that. It's like this guy has like, like toddler age kids, and I'm like, bro, like, nah, like those are nightmares, bro. Like I'm not having nightmares, not 12, bro. Like I'm having night terrors. Is totally different. But it's just funny how people try to relate to you, and they find any connection. And even though like really they're kind of diminishing what you're talking to them about, you know what I mean? But it made me laugh so much, bro. I'm like, well, yeah, bro, like I'm not afraid of the boogie monster, bro. Like that's not the issue. Like I know that's not real. Dark is scary, but boogie monster. So anyway, moving on to like number 10, which is pay attention to whether you're exhibiting self-destructive behavior. So basically, it's like pay attention to your own behavior. Notice if there are big changes in the way that you're feeling or acting, So The strongest examples are you noticing that you're drinking more? Are you partying harder than normal? And even are you like thirstier than normal? Are you out there trying to, find love in all the wrong places kind of thing, Like pay attention to that, because it's just very important to deal with things ASAP when they're happening right away. Like really for real, nip it in the bud is just a great philosophy going forward, and it'll help you blast through problems way quicker. So this was really tricky because I don't really have a good answer for it, because when you're not feeling good about yourself, you're not talking good about yourself, and if you do that with your friends and family, they're gonna feel pressure to make you feel better, and they might not say the right thing. That's gonna knock you out of your thing and out of your funk or whatever. And it's hard to find colleagues or people, contemporaries that are gonna be willing to hear you out and get you back on track. That's also kind of challenging. So I don't have a good answer for this, but like definitely just seek out like good feeling. For me, or for us, Lou, it's music. Like just drown in music would be great. Teaching, like people are always trying to learn stuff, and they're relatively appreciative when you're teaching them things, and so teaching is really important. Helping people is good. Like just really make it tangible, beginning and get it through. That way you can sort of like hack yourself into understanding that you have value. It just the important thing is not to wallow and not to let it get deeper. You know what I'm saying? That's the real issue. It's just getting out of wherever you are as quick as possible and using others to be able to do that. And it doesn't have to be in the field that you're in. You could do a bunch of other. You could volunteer at church, and that'll feel. Yeah. It's all about seeking good feeling. Look for it, find it, eat it up. That's just endlessly valuable. Really manage your contacts and keep them because they're super important, and take them with you. You know what I'm saying? Like legit export your email like every quarter, and keep that in a file for yourself at home. Did hundreds of interviews and have been on the air for thousands of hours for so many conversations, and I never took my stuff with me. Like all the people that relationships that I cultivated and experts that I connected with, that I found myself and all that stuff, I don't have that anywhere. As a journalist especially, or a media person, you need all that stuff to bring with you. It's your Rolodex essentially. And you got to bring that with you. It's one of the most valuable things you could bring to another organization. So another thing to do is to pay attention to like the things that you're doing that are outside of your regular job, like the projects in particular, and being able to separate those out and keep those for yourself as well. For example, for me, yes, I did a daily show and I did interviews of people, but sometimes I also was like leading, like editorial projects, like with election coverage and things like that, or I was like really revamping the order or structure in which we did something with our processes. Like pay attention to that stuff when you're doing that, and write it down. You know what I mean? Keep track of it. I mean, maybe the greatest example would be, I worked in a manufacturing plant, sort of, and I figured out a way to save the company so much money, by just changing the way we did a process. I sort of experienced the factory floor. I saw the way things worked. The employees told me what the problems were. I thought about it, and I was like, I have a solution for that. It's going to cost money, but saves money in the long run. And it's hard for me to explain exactly what I did and exactly what the savings were, because I didn't take all of that information with me, and it was not part of my job. I was an office manager, and I was saving money in the operations of the business, you know what I mean, which was the plant manager's foray, you know what I'm saying? So just pay attention to that, and be able to tell people about these special projects that you worked on, because those are probably going to be more interesting than your typical job from day to day. And lastly, I'll put these two together. One of them is pay attention to your to how your career is moving. Reflect as often as you can. Like give yourself a schedule. Maybe it's every 6 months, or maybe it's every 12 months, but like really sit down and look back and maybe even get help, get perspective from people about where you're at versus where you're trying to be, and whether you're achieving the goals that you set for yourself, in the 6 months or the 12 months before. Because for myself, I know that I definitely plateaued somewhere around the 3 year mark when I was in the radio business, and I stayed there for another 4 or 5 years, So it's just important to recognize that, just be reflecting all the time about where you're at, where you're trying to be, and if it's all making sense to where you're going, if you're happy with the way things are going. Because ultimately, on the one hand, by sticking around, I got a few more opportunities. Like that 4th year had a lot of really great opportunities, but then that 5th year, everything just bottomed out, So, and I was there for 8. So that's just how things go, and just be paying attention, and think of it like a 2-3 year thing. When you go somewhere, if you have a higher aspiration than where you're at, build something, do your best work, start looking for the next opportunity. Like it's okay to do that. Don't be shy about it. So then in closing, the thing is just recognize that, allies are temporary. You might have an ally today and tomorrow they might not be anymore. Just keep that in mind, especially in cutthroat business like media, where everybody wants to get in and they're trying to differentiate themselves, especially from people who they're closest to. You don't really have true allies. It doesn't mean you have to be mean, like I said at the beginning, but just recognize that you're the one that's in charge of yourself. You're the one that's responsible for your career, and you will be betrayed. There will be people who will betray you, and those people are going to be close to you and not super close to you. It's going to happen. Keep it in mind. Be ready for it. And that's just how it's going to be, So manage your career. You're responsible for it. No one else is. That's pretty much the lesson of this whole thing. Hopefully it wasn't too negative. Hope people got something out of this. I hope Lou, second generation Lou, second one behind me in the other dimension, you take heed of some of this stuff and that you do your best. If I would say anything, it's do what you want to do it now, do it fast, and you will win, because you will probably lose a bunch. But one big win after a series of 5 losses in a short period of time is way more valuable than a long time passing with neither a win or a loss. So, all right, that's it. It's kind of long, but still experimenting with this. So hit me back if you guys have any thoughts or suggestions or whatever. Peace.